The moment you become complacent is the moment you stop growing. I learned this lesson the hard way at the poker tables. In 2016, I spent the last 5 years battling my way to the highest stakes. I was starting to feel comfortable. I'd beaten some of the best players, I was respected in the lobbies, and I was making good money. And I felt on top of the world. And around this time, I stopped studying. I felt like, I know enough, my game's good enough, I'm at a very good level. Then some new players, a new wave of players came from the level below and they started challenging me. And very quickly, they caught me off guard. I realized they had new strategies, new approaches, and the edge that I felt confident in the past had slipped away. And I realized I was playing catch up. And this was when I started to study again and to really start to work on my game. But it was very reactive. It wasn't because I was pushing for higher levels. It was because now the pain of losing and getting beaten sparked me to want to learn more. And this is the first time I learned the lesson of getting to a point where you feel comfortable, a point where you feel like you've done enough and you rest on your laurels. It's that complacency that comes there where it stops you growing, it stops you progressing, and you need that kind of reality wake up. So this is what I call the trap of feeling like you already know. All right, if we look at what's the biggest obstacle to learning, our biggest obstacle to growth is we feel like we already know. If you look at children, how quickly they learn, they absorb everything. They're like sponges, and they're always asking questions. Why this? Why that? Why is this happening? And they don't feel like they already know. They've got no ego. They've got no skin in the game. They'll ask the most silly questions just to get a bit more understanding. And as a result, they learn so quick. As we get to adults, we start to feel like we know a lot. We read a few books, we listen to podcasts, and we're like, yep, heard that before. Yep, heard that. Yep, I know that. But don't you really know? Do you really know if you don't apply it in your daily life? Do you really get it if you haven't been able to simplify it and to teach it to somebody else? If you're not progressing with that knowledge, if that knowledge is just information and you're not using it in your day-to-day life, do you really know it? Do you really understand it? And what are you also missing? So on this, I almost say like 2 levels. One is you feel like you know when you don't. So this is like almost at a lower level, maybe kind of beginner, intermediate, or before intermediate level, where you feel like you're an expert, but you're not. This is everyone who talks about gym workouts, things they hear on a Hoopman podcast, and they feel like they're expert because they've heard a lot of information. But if you look at how they live their lives, you look how they show up, they just regurgitate what other people say, but they don't actually live it. So they haven't got to that deeper level of understanding. That's the one kind of trap of thing you already know. The second is when you're at the higher level and you do know a lot. And now your ego kicks in and like it starts to embody that I feel smart. I feel good at this. So for me, I sometimes fall victim to this when I feel like I've got to a certain level and I've learned what I need to learn. Recently, I've had to go through it with my powerlifting, where I spent a lot of time learning lots of stuff, and then I started to progress very quickly, and then I plateaued. And when I plateaued, I was like, oh, wait a second, what don't I know? And I realized I'd got very sloppy with my approaches. I plateaued because I wasn't trying to improve. I wasn't trying to learn more. I was just assuming I already knew what I needed to do. I knew how to program. I knew how to recover. I knew how to train. What else could there be to learn? And that's the trick. We've got to realize there's always more to learn. And you've really got to put yourself in a learning state. So what I've realized is that learning isn't a ladder, it's a loop. All right, when you think about this, if we're trying to climb a ladder, it's all about acquiring knowledge, right? So if I think that my learning is a ladder, I get to a point where I check out. The ladder tops out at some level. But when learning is a loop, it's never done. All right, what I realize is it loops through these kind of following phases. So first of all, you do something. So you get the raw experience, you try something, and the experience becomes the data you get back, whether it's a sport you're doing, whether it's some information you're learning. So you do something, you interact with something. Then from there, you need to reflect on that. All right, so the second part of the loop is that experience, can you reflect on it? What went well? What didn't go well? Why didn't it go well? Right, and really understanding what happens. Then you need to make sense of that. And for me, it's some sort of analyzing, like realizing why it didn't go so well and what conclusions can I take from it. So I'm doing this reflection. Let's say it's with your gym workouts and you go, how am I trained today? You reflect on how you felt. You reflect on how the weights moved. You reflect on the progress you're making over the course of days and weeks. And you start to have some sort of summary. And then you analyze that and come to conclusions. So the third step is, how do I make sense of this? How do I generalize this into some broad kind of concepts or approaches? And then finally, you will apply that insight and try again. All right, so you've got this experience, reflecting, analyzing, simplifying, and then learning again. All right, so if you're thinking about this in terms of being a poker player, is a good example. They will play poker every day, mostly 6 days a week. They will then reflect on their session. How did I play today? Maybe tag some hands that they played, maybe look at some spots that they thought they didn't play very well. They will then analyze those. They will look at solvers, which are these kind of computer algorithms that will tell them how they should have played, look for errors. They will then come up with some conclusions. Mistake there, mistake there. Next time I play, I will do this. They will then write a plan, which will go into their session goals for the following session or something to work on, and they will find a way to kind of plug that leak, we'd say, in terms of get rid of that error that applied. So in this, they go for a learner model of reflecting, analyzing, improving, and then trying again and trying to improve that. And if you look at how we learn, whether it's mental, physical, it's all the same process. It's all have an experience, reflect on that. And for me, I feel like return to the beginner's mind is so important. When you plateau, it's often because you've stopped trying to reflect. You've stopped trying to ask those deeper questions. And having worked with many high performers and high stakes poker players in particular, you see over and over the guys who are at the top the longest are the ones who stay open-minded. They stay curious. They don't let their mind go, yeah, I know this. This is how you play this hand. This is what you do. They always ask questions like, what was this? Why did that happen? Could I have done something different? They're just curious. All right. So the importance I want to get through today is, how do you hold on to that beginner's mindset? How do you continue to keep learning, keep improving? Now, when I say beginner's mindset, I don't mean you know nothing. I mean you're constantly open. It means asking more questions even when you should have the answer. It means getting feedback in any way you can to upgrade your learning process. It means trying new things, exploring, not being scared to be wrong, not being scared to look stupid, and constantly refining your approaches and creating new ways of doing stuff. And regardless of what level you're at, whether you're a beginner, whether you're advanced to something, or even an expert, the moment you stop learning is the moment you stop growing. So the real key skill to progressing, the real key skill to always improving, always getting better, is keeping that open, curious beginner's mind. It's returning to first principles. It's returning to what you don't know. It's returning to asking questions and testing your assumptions. What could you be doing better? And I feel like as we go through life, we get lazy with this. We don't reflect enough. I know myself, I learn quite well through doing, but I learn even more through thinking and reflecting. So if I shortcut the thinking time, reflecting time, I won't take on anywhere near as much lessons. I've got some friends who, especially in the sport context, learn a lot from just playing. There's some friends I play paddle with, they don't do any coaching, don't really think about the game, and they learn really quick. Their style of learning does very well from just playing. I'm guessing they reflect at different times and different ways, but for me, I do better with coaching. I do better with sitting down and thinking about stuff. I do better looking at a video and going, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And trying to distill lessons, and then taking those lessons and then trying to apply them into a plan and then use them in the real world. And when you go through this process, it's this constant evolution of trying to get better, of staying open and trying to learn. So apply this to everything that you're trying to get better at. Look at the areas where you feel like you already know. That is the in point, the gateway that you need to go deeper, because you will always have blind spots. There's always more to learn. If you feel that's not true for you in an area, again, big warning signs. Ask yourself, how can I continue to learn in this area? How can I do more, reflect on what I'm doing, analyze what I'm doing, and then try to upgrade my approaches? And when you do this, life becomes this really fun game of leveling up, of getting better. And every time you lose that, you need to come back to it. All right, come back to this learning model, come back to that beginner's mind, drop the ego, and become a student again.